Senator Bernie Sanders recently released his plan to essentially transform our healthcare system into one that actually takes care of the American people. Right now, what we have is a multi-payer system of for-profit health insurance. Bernie Sanders wants to change that into a single-payer, non-profit-based system. And of course, both sides, people on both sides, immediately freaked out, piled on from people allied with Hillary Clinton, who said, "Oh my God, you're giving out ponies. This is so unrealistic." And then they joined with people that were on the further right, because that criticism, of course, comes from the right. And they said, well, it's a socialized medicine, socialized takeover of healthcare. Yeah, where have we heard that argument before? Now, Trump also decided that he would weigh in on Bernie Care, and he tweeted this. He said, "Bernie Sanders is pushing hard for a single-payer healthcare plan, a curse on the U.S. and its people." A curse. Interesting. He also said, "I told Republicans to approve healthcare fast, or this would happen. But don't worry, I will veto because I love our country and its people." Oh, yes, you absolutely love the country so much that you would be against making sure the entire country has healthcare. Now, look, this is your typical brain-dead Trump response. Look, as far as I can tell, he doesn't know what single-payer means. Or at least he doesn't understand what's actually in Bernie Sanders' bill. Now, I think, or at least he's been turned against it by the people that he's around. As I'm going to show you, he didn't used to think this way. Now, I think this is has to do a lot with the opinion of people like Gary Cohn and Steve Mnuchin and other powerful CEOs and Republicans that are around him that are like, oh, no, single payer bad, single payer bad. And of course, since he doesn't know anything, he repeats that, he regurgitates, single payer bad, curse. But look, what's so bad about guaranteeing healthcare for everybody? Not only is it the right thing to do, but it also drives down costs. That's not an accident. That's not me guessing. That's looking at the other countries who have single payer systems who spend half as much as we do on healthcare per person. We spend about $10,000 on healthcare per person. Canada spends about half that per person. And I know somebody in the comments is going to probably make an argument like, oh, yeah, but doctor shortages. That's not true. Doctors are not fleeing Canada. In fact, it's kind of the other way around. A lot of doctors are, going to Canada. Some Canadian doctors, by the way, are coming down to the United States for training because we do have excellent training programs. And then they go back to Canada to practice. And then, of course, there's arguments of government-run healthcare. No, it's not government-run healthcare. Basically, all it is that the government is your insurance company. The government, there's no government doctors. The government will pay the doctors for the services that they render to you. Again, he doesn't understand anything, and neither do a lot of the opponents from single payer. They don't understand what it actually means either. But anyway, now, for me, I don't see giving healthcare a curse, okay, to everybody. I actually think that it's a cure to our healthcare problems. And ironically, it does everything that Donald Trump promised it would do on the campaign trail. So he promised that it would lower premiums, that it would cover everybody. Well, that's what single payer does, okay, and be cheaper for the country. Already we spend $3.2 trillion on healthcare. And single payer would actually, like I said, lower that cost and cover everyone. And it's not me, there's evidence. And I know that there's a lot of attacks on the center, the centrists, the so-called Democrats. Like, no, you got to stick to the facts of Bernie Sanders. It's going to be more expensive, blah, blah, blah. No, look at the actual facts. And you can do that by looking at the countries that have actually already put these systems into place. There are facts there. We can look at those. We can see that it actually works. But anyway. Now, interestingly enough, this comes at a time where people started have looked into Donald Trump's past, and some of his past statements And they're actually quite friendly towards single payer. In fact, even as early as May, President Trump said he believed Australia's single-payer healthcare system was better than the U.S. health system, and he would be correct. That was one statement that I actually 100% agree with on Trump. He also, according to the Washington Post, he also said that back in 2000, he advocated for single-payer as a potential Reform Party president candidate and had touted it in his book, The America We Deserve. He said, quote, "We must have universal health care. Just imagine the improved quality of life for our society as a whole." He also added the Canadian-style single-payer system in which all payments for medical care are made to a single agency as opposed to the large number of HMOs and insurance companies with their diverse rules, claim forms, and deductibles helps Canadians live longer and healthier than Americans. So that's what he used to think in 2000. I guess he changed his mind. Or did he? Just before the 2016 primary, Donald Trump appeared on the David Letterman show and held up Scotland's socialized system as the ideal system. That's rather strange. So he is advocating for some sort of single-payer universal system. But wait, I thought single-payer was a curse. Now, Bernie Sanders, of course, did not take this line down. And he decided to defend his bill against Donald Trump by tweeting this. He said, "No, Mr. President, providing health care to every man, woman, and child is a right, is not a curse. It's exactly what we should be doing. What is a curse is your support for throwing 23 million people off health insurance. That's the curse, and we won't allow you to get away with it." Now, that's, of course, he's referring to the incredibly unpopular AHCA bill, Trump Care, which would have thrown 23 million people off health insurance. Now, it also would not have guaranteed coverage or lowered prices at all. Essentially, it was nothing more than a giant tax cut disguised as a health care bill. And you know what? That's what people noticed about it. That's why it had a 17% approval rating. Now, Medicare for all has a 60% approval rating. That's high even among Republicans. So why don't I give Trump just a little bit of advice? Hey, dude, why don't you read the polls on single payer? You would realize that it's very, very popular. Now, this is a bit of a stretch, but say he threatened a veto. Okay. Oh, if this ever gets to my desk, I'm going to veto it. First of all, if this ever got through Congress, which would be amazing in itself, because it would take so much political pressure that there would have to be a giant groundswell of support. This would have to be a little political revolution, okay, in order to put enough pressure on politicians to actually support single payer. That would be huge. Now, what would happen to the people who went against that? They would get crushed. Now, that's the last thing Donald Trump will want to do. Now, this is a guy, again, who thrives off affirmative, affirmation and positive press, okay? If this guy stands in the way of single payer, disaster. But if he signs single payer, well, that would be a defining moment in American history. Could you imagine? Everybody would have health care, and it would be partly thanks to Trump. He would have actually done something that both Hillary Clinton and President Obama couldn't do, which is, again, pass truly universal health care that actually people will love. Now, again, Trump doesn't care about policy. He doesn't care if it's good policy, bad policy. What he cares about is media, and what he cares about is whether or not people actually like him and say nice things about him. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Now, of course, there's a lot of reasons that he would never do it. Again, he's too surrounded by establishment interests, and of course, mainly consumes establishment and right-wing media, which of course would be railing against single payer because they're wholly owned by giant multinational corporations. But nonetheless, even with that, it's kind of an interesting thought exercise. And if Trump was interested in actually thinking, he would at least look at the polls. He would at least examine the popular, it would see that it's a popular policy and go, maybe there's something to it. My poll numbers suck. People fucking hate me. Maybe I should do something extremely popular. It would be nice. But look, even if that never happens, and it's very likely to have never happened under Trump, single payer is still, it is coming. It does have record support, and I think that will only continue to grow. Like, people are tired of right-wing healthcare plans, which are really wealth care, and they're starting to get that, hey, maybe this single payer thing, maybe that is the answer. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.